everybody. Welcome to the Web3 Business Show brought to you by Tokenized. As usual, I'm joined here by Ed and Kay. Hello, guys. And today we have a special guest, Max, who is the co-founder of AssetCut and Fine Turtle. Welcome, Max.
Hi guys, thank you.
Hi.
Great being here.
Great. Yeah, let's start off from Kay's side regarding the marketing and strategy questions for Max.
So, despite having real world assets behind your project, you know that cryptocurrencies and NFTs, whatnot, are still quite unpredictable and often behave independently from underlying assets, right, Max? So, how do you usually address those issues or concerns?
Yeah, so I believe that we need to differentiate between reward assets and actually cryptocurrencies and tokens. We talk about different types of things. Reward assets and tokenized reward assets are reward assets that we have in a normal life, whether it's a property, whether it's a piece of solar farm, for example, or some geothermal energy projects. And then this is just tokenized in form of a token, which is enabled for much bigger group of people to invest. So if you create a token based on the reward asset, then the token is backed by reward assets. So you don't have the issue of the volatility unless the market for that particular asset, let's say the real estate, is plummeting or is going up. So in this way, we in a way are not really connected to the crypto market that much, which means that in the next bear market, we might see maybe a little bit different behavior than we see in a normal crypto market when all the altcoins and coins are going down. Maybe the coins related also with the reward assets might not go down so much because it's a completely new thing that is only developing in this bull market.
And if I'm a user like looking for some real world assets and I stumble upon like your project and then Lofty and then Centrifuge and other real world assets and real estates. So how do you separate yourself or how do you differentiate yourself with other players like them?
Yeah, so a lot of already existing project on the market, they have some tokens ready and already operating on the market, but they don't really have well fit product when I analyze it. So we took a different approach. First, we built the whole product, and only later this year we're gonna be launching a token, right? So the way we differentiate ourselves is multiple things. The first thing is, number one, is the community. We built a Web3 community through the Fine Turtle NFT, where we have built almost 100,000 people who understand the Web3 space, and most of them understand about tokenization. So this is our demand that we are creating for the platform. And that's one of the biggest issues right now for RWA companies like Lofty and others that you mentioned, that there is not enough demand for the assets that they can be tokenized. So we came from the demand side of view to first create the community that later will benefit AssetCut and all the assets that are being tokenized there. On the other hand, we focus only on the assets, starting with real estates only, because real estate, you don't need to explain why real estate is good. Everyone understands why real estate is good, and everyone would love to have as many real estate in portfolio as possible, because that's a financial pillow that you can lay on if something happens to you. So we started with the real estate in Bali, because that's where me and my two co-founders were based. That's the market that we really understand, and the market that has a very high demand for short-term rent and offers great returns to the customers. So we basically focus on demand, we focus on the location, and we focus on one particular asset to start with to build the trust. And once our community starts having the trust to us as an AssetCut platform, not only Fine Turtle, then we can expand much faster, raise much more capital, expand to other markets, and then do it in such a way. And another one more important thing is that we created the platform like Web3 marketplace for the tokenized asset, which is very user friendly, where people do not need to understand blockchain to buy a tokenized asset. And I think that's the problem that the market was trying to solve earlier, and I don't think it has been solved yet. It's still too complicated.
All right. Okay. And then just one more follow up with that. I checked your marketplace and I've seen one property in Bali. So are you focusing now in Southeast Asia or like you've mentioned, it really depends on the demand. So whether which part of the country it is.
Yeah, we purely we are tokenizing the first property right now. It hasn't even launched. It's gonna launch next month, but it's already on the platform, as you can see. So we're gonna focus on Bali right now to build case studies there. We're gonna probably do 15, 20, 30 properties there that we have in the pipeline, and following that, the success story, we can replicate it in the other markets that we have prepared. So we want to move between exotic market like Bali and established market like US. So we want to give opportunity to different types of investors.
All right. Okay. That's it for me, Rob. Thanks, Max.
Thank you.
All right, let's go to Edgar for the tech side.
Okay. So for my question, in your RWA project, so how will the assets going to be fractionalized? Is it going to be constant across all the assets, or is it going to be varied?
No, so basically the way we do it, so we are registered in the US, so we work under US regulations. So you might be familiar with the company called Realty, and they've tokenized more than $100 million worth of real estate in the US in one city. And we are doing it similar way that they are doing, which is using Reg S or DAO LLC. So these two types of structures. It means that we can sell the property. If we use Reg S, we can sell the property to anyone a part of US citizen. So that's the same what Realty is doing, right? So this is the structure how we are operating right now in Bali, but we are lucky to have great lawyers as our advisors through our investors. So whenever there is some change in the regulatory framework, which we expect sooner or later, because this space is so new and it's changing so much, we will make sure to readjust accordingly so that always our fundament is like a strong part of our business.
So one other question, how do you authenticate the assets in Bali? So how do you, to make sure that the assets that the investors are investing is the actual RWA that you are marketing?
Yeah, so while we lived in Bali for more than a year, we basically developed relationships with real estate developers, with real estate agencies, and with lawyers, with notary publics, as well as we have people on the ground. So we basically combine all these things together. We learned how the real estate market works and how the freehold works, how the leasehold works, and what is important, what documents are needed in order to verify the property with the title, that everything is correct. So then based on that, we just combine it together. All is being processed by the lawyers there, and once it's confirmed, only then the property is being listed.
Okay, so you use the your verification for all these assets are off chain.
Unfortunately, in Bali, on-chain doesn't work yet. Maybe one day we can contribute to that, but it's still a language of the future. You know, I think Dubai is one of the first cities, countries, UAE, right, that is trying to do it on-chain, but it's still a language of the future. But we are all moving towards there. So sooner or later, I believe more and more of the countries will be putting it on-chain because it's just much more beneficial.
That's all for my question. Thank you.
Thank you, Edgar.
Well, quite some interesting topics to touch on. Maybe let's start at the last thing you mentioned, right? About actually moving those RWAs on chain, the real estate titles and stuff like that. You mentioned Dubai is working on that as well. What exactly? What is the impact potentially of that, and how would that basically affect your project and the RWA real estate market in general?
Yeah, you know, it's like it's the same as we can track any type of assets based on the blockchain these days, whether it's any type of token, we can see how it moves between the wallets, right? So it gives us the ability of provenance, of traceability. It's the same why the biggest fashion houses, right, are getting into the art, mostly because of provenance and traceability, that they can track the assets. And with the real estate, imagine that when right now the developer anywhere in the world, just let's say make it the Netherlands, developer builds a real estate, and all the titles are being put immediately onto the government blockchain. So then it's very easy to see who owns and how it has been changed together with the prices over the course of the years, right? So in a way, if you would create a tokenized solution, like RWA solution, like we have created, and then we would want to analyze any asset, whether all the documents are intact, and who is the owner, whether the price that we are paying, is it like, is overpriced or it's a bargain, what were the conditions of the purchase before, whether any issues with the properties, any floatings or whatever, everything would be registered on the blockchain. So this would allow us to make much better decision with much better information in a much faster way, spending much less money on it, right? So that would be the main advantage. And that's the advantage, I think, why so many companies are moving towards using blockchain as the system, right? That they base their information on.
Yeah, although this is more from a government perspective, right? That they are moving that information on chain. But how does it work with titles then potentially, right? Because I could totally imagine it's a big deal for a project like you guys. It's a very interesting future, but that kind of information, of course there's privacy issues around that. You cannot, I assume, right, you cannot just put like a title on a person's name on chain without maybe some hashing or how would it work?
The way how it would work is that you would be able to plug into the particular amount of the information that you need. So you don't need to, for example, if the government holds all the data and you are a verified, tokenized entity, let's call it like that, because we don't know the name in the future that's going to be called, right? Or like some developer or whatever, you'll be able to plug into that data and see what you need to see, which is not confidential in a way. Let's say you would be able to see who, or like how many people own this property before, or how many people own the car before, this type of things, right? So you just have the access to a certain amount of data. It's similar, like we also do a lot of work in West Africa and in emerging economies. And for example, in Ghana, the government has asked us if we could create for them a system for the supply chain, blockchain-based supply chain system, right? So they could track some of the commodities that they are getting from the north of the country to south of the country between their warehouses, because they say right now they have a complete mess. They have, let's say, 10,000 tons of a product in North Ghana, but when it arrives south, it's like 8,500, and they don't know what happens with it. So you can actually track every batch if you put it on the blockchain. But I think sometimes for countries like emerging economies like Ghana or Nigeria, it's easier to move towards that solution because they don't have so much already established complex supply chain systems, right? But that's like talking about supply chain. But supply chain is not really far from supply chain for like real estate. So that's why in a way I connect it together, because it's just the system, how it can all operate and benefit people and the government and also entities that collaborate with it and needs that data.
And why do you need a blockchain necessarily for that, right? Because it basically run by a single node, which is owned by the government. So that's almost just like a normal database, right? So what is the blockchain part of this kind of solution? So
the main reason for them is that they want to use blockchain and use the name of the blockchain to increase the observance of the country internationally. They want people to see that Ghana is using something called blockchain, and they want it to be, to be verifiable, because they think it's going to be better for them as the country, right? To in a way show off. So this is the case with them. Obviously, we can do it like in a one node, as you mentioned, but this is what they are trying to do.
Right, they try to jump in on the trend to set the country apart.
Probably add some AI and things like that.
Okay, understood. And then in terms of you mentioned the regulatory part. So you mentioned Reg S and DAO LLC. You're mainly using Reg S for this right now. Is that correct?
Yeah, currently yes. But we also have the DAO LLC open in Wyoming that is basically ready to perform for other properties later on.
Right. What is the reason for using that setup compared to, registering something in Singapore or Panama? Or what is the benefit of Reg S specifically, I guess?
I mean, for this, the perfect answer will be probably provided by our lawyers. But based on the research that we did before we even opened AssetCut, it's mostly to the fact that Reg S has the most case studies done together with DAO LLC. So it's basically you are sure that what you're working on is working properly and there are not issues, no any issues. With Singapore, you have accredited investors, non-accredited investors. It's getting a bit more complex. In Singapore, and MAS is very, very strict. In US, Reg S and DAO LLC is not as strict as long as you do not touch American citizen. If you want to touch American citizen, then you need to apply for Regulation D, which takes longer process, probably 1.5 up to 2 years. And then when you have the Reg D, you can touch US customers, which we would love to do, but later on once we grow and scale up.
All right.
Yeah.
And you mentioned earlier that you created this community to create the demand also for RWA. So what part is kind of relevant there that the other projects didn't generate this demand just with their RWA projects? Why do you think, first of all, what object did you kind of overcome in terms of like using your own community for this to make them interested, and why do you think that without it it's hard to succeed in for this kind of project?
First of all, because it's when you take most of the customers for the tokenized platforms, tokenized assets are right now Web3 people. And there are not many of them. And the reason for that is that Web3 communities are expecting very high returns in most of the cases. When you deal with reward assets, you're not talking about thousands percent, you talk about something reasonable, 10%, 15% a year, right? This is what normal, like let's say real estate's 15% a year, it's already great return for the real estate, right? So this is the thing that I believe when I speak with people, when I go on the conference, it's a hard thing to overcome because people need to learn. I believe that the way we approached it is that we've realized that, okay, there are some platforms and some of them do great. Actually, I would say one of them do really great, the name I mentioned, but in terms of the volume. However, there are a lot of platforms that are struggling with the volume. And when I go to the conference and I speak with some other RWA marketplaces, they really struggle to attract users because either assets are not attractive, the returns are not attractive, or maybe the marketing strategies are not attractive. So that's why before we created AssetCut, we started with the fine turtle to say, okay, let's build an NFT where we can gather this Web3 community. Number one, let's make the NFT look cool so people will love the art. But on the other side, let's give utility to the NFT. And through the utility, people will learn about RWA. And our utility is that when people get the NFT, they can stake it. And when they stake it, they get a fine token. And then the fine token is just the ecosystem token. It's not traded on the exchanges. And then this token can be redeemed to tokenized real estate in Bali. So basically, by holding our NFT, you get rewarded with real estates, tokenized real estates. And through that, they learn about RWA. So for us, it's not also a process that, we have this community and we already have all this demand. For us, it's a process of taking steps one by one and slowly educating these people towards RWA so that at the end of the bull market, they know that they need to either sell and get into the real world assets, or they will lose this profits that they made, right? It's the mistakes that I've done in the past as well in different bull markets, and I would love people to avoid it. If there is a way, for example, to convert your USDT, Solana's, Ethereum to a property, or to a private equity, or to a solar farm, or to doesn't matter, any type of reward assets. I believe this will be great for people, and it's a great form of education.
That is a very interesting marketing tactic for sure. That usually it happens the other way around, to get people in the Web3 space, but you're taking the other approach where, you get like, I don't want to say degens, but probably the younger crypto investor audience that doesn't know much about real estate or other RWAs, and kind of connect them to that space in that way and tell them, educate them about the benefits and get them excited about it.
And we see it, like you say, Robbie, because obviously we would love to have only the smartest, the most educated Web3 community, but obviously it's very hard, especially when you build something new. Although we have some percentage of these people, which is great. But initially, when we started talking about RWA to this younger community, they're like, oh, what is RWA? What is RWA? You know, and they didn't even know. But once the RWA picked up with the BlackRock and all the things, they suddenly say, oh, you guys are RWA. I just got to know about it. So you talk about reward assets, and you can see this change in their mind moving forward, which we really like to see. But obviously, it's a process. Yeah, it's not gonna happen instantly.
What is your? We're almost getting to the end here. There's some final questions. Maybe Kay and Ed, do you have any other questions so far?
No, none on my end.
Yeah, for me, I have one. So you've mentioned about educating people, and then so for you, Max, which is the best platform? There are a lot of platforms out there. So which is the best platform that you guys use to educate people?
So we mostly use Twitter for most of our communication. In terms of education, we do a lot of education on Discord as well. We run a lot of, we did a very good campaign of X Spaces together with Unfungible. You might know them. And Leona Booth. We had great X Spaces with great other guests within the NFT space, building very good projects in RWA, as well as Forbes Web3. And we ran it for more than 2 months, just educating people about the importance of RWA in general, right? And this gave us a great audience, also this high tier audience that we really wanted. And more one-to-one or smaller group ones we do on Discord when we chat with people. And we also have so-called like fun voice calls every single week or every second week, where we just discuss with people at RWA. But yeah, you can't always keep it around RWA because it would be boring. So we just need to, do different types of things to keep our community interested and excited, right?
All right. Yeah. Thank you for that. Yeah, that one. That's my question.
Thank you.
Yeah. So Max, what do you see? So it's a very exciting project. It's very interesting angle in terms of like getting those crypto people excited about RWAs, which they might otherwise not be generally into, because they probably believe in decentralization, Bitcoin, the future of DeFi in general. But they love, of course, staking, getting their yields, the rewards, being involved in communities like that. So they do believe in that shared kind of vision. How do you think RWAs are going to fit into that vision in the future? You mentioned there might be regulatory updates. You also mentioned that, right now, actually, the connection between crypto and RWAs is not that verifiable. It's more of a manual process. So, of course, there's KYC, which crypto people are generally not super excited about. You have to maybe download an app. It's not really all on chain. So, how do you see the future developing? What is your vision there?
Okay, so when I got into the crypto space in 2016, I was like, oh, it's all so nice, it's all decentralized, and this is so great. But with the time and with my growth of my understanding, I realized that blockchain is not about decentralization. At the end of the day, blockchain is about control. So it's all moving towards that direction, whether we want it or not, whether we want to be all off-chain and do all this stuff anonymously. I don't think it's going to happen for that long. I think it's mostly going to be a verified, in a way, community. You see exchanges need to be, you give KYC, different types of project KYC, and there is no reward assets, legal reward assets without the KYC. And when you see all these large financial institutions entering the space, I can see KYC even more and more. So I'm completely not afraid of the KYC part here, and I believe that long term, I'm very interested into in the tokenization of assets. I believe it's gonna be something that's gonna really grow, because I believe we never had a trend within a crypto space being as much supported as RWA is right now by the financial institutions. We never had it. We never had financial institutions or like traditional, organizations being so hyped about DeFi or earlier about ICOs, right? But RWA is something that they know. It's a hard assets that have always been on this earth, and now you put them onto the blockchain, and it can just benefit communities globally. And if I may add, what I think the most excited about with the tokenization in general, whether it's our projects or any other projects that is tokenizing some assets, is the fact that finally these assets will be enabled to communities that could not afford these assets before. And this can enable all new wealth getting into these assets and basically potentially changing and improving the lives of these emerging communities.
That is quite interesting. We're running almost at the end here. Just some final questions. I think for our audience, you mentioned indeed kind of the connection between crypto and RWAs, which is also the community part, right? What you're bringing into it, being involved in like something, something that doesn't generally come with necessarily a community. They come with investors and they come with term sheets, but they don't come with actual involvement of the community. It's a very passive kind of style of investing RWAs usually, right? So you mentioned you are going to bring communities into the mix. Would that also involve DAO-like things that the community can actually influence what type of properties are being bought? Is there any connection there between the DAOs and the RWA project that you're doing?
Yeah, so as part of our white paper of AssetCut token, we are preparing the utility for the DAO as well, so we can give some of the governance to the community to decide what properties and also which properties, which market, as well as a few other things that we are also working on right now. So yes, we would love to have this part of the blockchain within into our ecosystem, because I believe it's important. I always liked it myself, having the ability to vote for something. So I would love to give it to the community as well, to a certain extent, right? So that it's still manageable in a way by us, because we need to have a certain amount of control here as well, since we deal with reward assets.
Yeah, you need a certain amount of expertise on those markets to make the right decisions and stuff like that. Well, thank you so much, Max. Final question for our audience that are fellow founders, entrepreneurs, people that work in the Web3 space, try to make their project successful, including fellow RWA projects. What would be your point of advice for those people in terms of how to succeed in this market?
Sorry, Robbie, if you could repeat, because I lost again connection.
What would be your recommendation, your piece of advice for our audience, which are founders and fellow entrepreneurs in the space, trying to make their project successful? What would you say to them?
That's a good question. That's something that I'm always trying to learn myself as well, to be better and better. But I definitely believe in the honesty and keeping into the word. So whatever you promise, just keep into that, because otherwise you might lose your community and you become not trustworthy. I also believe a lot. I come from the Web2. I had Web2 companies as well. So I always love the personal contact with people. I love when we could verify each other and know each other by the name. So get doxed, show yourself who you are, what you've done. And I believe, and just be yourself. Yeah, just be yourself and within your community.
Great advice. Thank you, Max. Thanks again. And thanks at NK as always for being here, and see you guys next time.
Thank you very much. Bye.